My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Love, Death, and Robots Season 1. And this review will have some spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch this review because I will be going in depth. I said review, but it's also kind of a ranking. I'm just not saying that because then it's expected I put the numbers in the corner and do a countdown. But honestly, I don't feel like putting in that extra effort for this show because this show is a giant piece of shit. I heard great things about it, and I don't know why. Like, this wasn't just bad, this was tough to get through. The episodes are so short, yet they felt so long, and I'll do an overall thoughts on the whole thing, but I was not a fan. But let's begin ranking the shorts from worst to best, so I talk about each one individually, and this just felt like the best order to do it in. The worst one of the bunch, coming in at 18, is Alternate Histories, where we just see Hitler die in 6 different ways, each one more over the top than the last. And this is just one joke. Look, it's Hitler and he's dying. Isn't that hilarious? That's comedy gold. No, honestly, this is just so stupid. The only idea behind it is Hitler dying over and over again. It's nowhere near as smart or clever as it thinks it is, and the orgy stuff is just so unneeded, and you'll be hearing that from me a lot in this video. So, not funny, not clever, very short, but still really hated it. And 17th is one called The Dump, which is pretty ironic because this one is dump. Like, it's pure garbage. That's all. It's just a dull, generic story. I thought the blood looked good in it, but that's as positive as I can get in it. So that one comes in at number 17. At number 16, which is off from 3, which would have been the perfect number for this one to be at, but Lucky 13 is at 16th place. It's just very forgettable. You're going to hear this next tone from me a lot to this video, but it's just one of those video game cutscene ones that did absolutely nothing for me. Whenever you're trying to tell a story with action, you've got to establish some sort of stakes and tension and characters, otherwise it doesn't work, and it's very difficult to do that in short film format, and it absolutely falls flat here. Then in 15th place is When the Logort Takes Over, which I thought this one was going to be my favorite, just based on the premise of yogurt taking over the planet. It's trying so desperately hard to be like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but once again, it's nowhere near as funny or smart as it thinks it is. It's just ultimately really stupid. Then in 14th place is one called Shapeshifters, and this is another one of the video game cutscene ones that just did absolutely nothing for me. Like, a werewolf battle at nighttime should be awesome, should be thrilling, should be spooky, should be just fantastic all around, and yet here, I just couldn't get invested in it for the life of me, and I just found it to be way too long, even at short film lengths, and it just really bored me and did absolutely nothing, so that's why it's in 14th place. In 13th place is Zima Blue, which might be the most forgettable of the bunch because that was the last one I watched, and I can't even remember what it was about. It was about like the Metal Man and he was swimming, and yeah, unique animation style, but boring, dull, no interest. In 12th place is Sucker of Souls, and ones like this I should love. Like, you've got this one great death scene, you've got the location of catacombs, getting chased by a vampire, I think it was Dracula. This should be awesome, but they find a way to make it so boring. Like, it's a short film, filled with energy, make it over quick, and just make it a total blast. But there's this whole twist where the vampire is scared of cats or something like that, and that didn't work for me, and it just ends up being surprisingly really slow and boring considering the premise. Then we've got in 11th place Good Hunting, and I do like what it's trying to do here by exploring the connection between technology and magic, but it just doesn't go into it nearly enough, and the characters in the story were so lacking that I couldn't have cared less, so that comes in 11th place. In 10th place is another video game cutscene, and it's The Secret War. I like the ideas of a supernatural war with the actual military, but the execution was blah, it was forgettable, I didn't care for it. In 9th place is one called Suits. not the TV show about the Loyals, but bunch of farmers with these mech suits fighting insect bugs. Should be awesome, and I do like the different kind of animation, but the whole thing just feels like the climax to a movie I haven't seen. There's just no weight to anything going on at all. There's no real characters, no real story. It's just all action and zero substance. Like, there's one part where a main character dies, and I felt nothing. Absolutely diddly squat. So that comes in a ninth place. In 8th place is Blind Spot. And I do like the animation style here. It looks like a 90s cartoon in the best of ways. And there's one cool final kill where the one robot loses his head and he thinks he's dead, but then the fuel's coming out and he uses that to light it up and blow it up. That was a great kill, but everything else was just so lacking. One thing I hate about this show is just how desperately it's trying to be R-rated, and just you can really feel that here, where every second word is fuck, and it's just trying too hard to be dark and edgy, and I just found the writing to be really bad. Then in 7th place is 3 Robots, which I didn't really like at all. I didn't think any of the jokes land. It's just the kind of jokes we've seen time and time again, where robots or something that isn't human tries to explain human stuff in a very robotic fashion, and didn't laugh. The only reason why it's this high up is because I actually found the animation here to be absolutely beautiful. Unlike lots of the video game cutscenes that have humans in them, where there's just an uncanny valley effect, the fact that the main characters here are robots allow me to get more invested in what's going on. So that's why 3 Robots, despite me not liking it all, comes in 7th place. In 6th place, we've got Beyond the Actual Rift. And I do think the ending to this is very rad. It kind of reminds me of Stranger Things in some ways, where it turns out it's all just a dream and the reality is this terrible, gross situation. And it kind of touches on the idea of a beautiful lie. I just wish it kind of leaned into it a bit more. But everything else up until that point was very rough. The sex scene was so unneeded, and the soundtrack choice there was quite laughable. Then in 5th place, we've got Fish Night, which I thought was incredibly boring for the first half, but the reason it's actually this high up is that the second half has some of the best animation in this season. I thought it looked very visually stunning, so despite me not really caring about the story or characters, I still enjoyed the visuals. In 4th place is The Witness, and this one should have been one I liked, because I love the animation style here. It kind of reminds me of Spider-Verse, well, someone closes the door and it says clunk or whatever noise it would make. I thought the style and the way the buildings looked especially were absolutely stunning. And if it was just a fast-paced chase scene, I would have absolutely loved it. And I do like the ending, but what just bogs it down is the unneeded sex stuff. They go to this sex club for like 5 minutes of this 10-minute long short film, and it's just, why? What does this add to the story? And it's just trying way too hard, so that unfortunately ruins it for me. And third place is one that I see a lot of people hate on, but I thought Ice Age was actually really entertaining. And I'm not talking about the Blue Sky Studios movie. No, I'm talking about the one that combined animation with live action, because we've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Topher Grace finding a whole human civilization in their freezer, which is such a goofy, over-the-top premise, and I think they play it right. And they just watch the evolution of mankind from finding a woolly mammoth frozen, and then they see how we build and we get better, and then a bunch of nuclear war and blowing things up, and then there's kind of science that's just so far out there, and then it's back to the beginning. I just thought it was very simple, but very entertaining nonetheless. And I just enjoyed this one. I don't think it took itself too seriously, and it was just pretty cool. So that's why it's in 3rd place. In 2nd place is one called Helping Hand, and it's 127 Hours meets Gravity. It's very simple, but it's effective. It's this girl, she's on a space station thing, and she floats away, and she doesn't know what to do, and she has to take drastic measures. And I thought it was tense. I thought it went into some very disturbing places. And before I knew it, it was over. So it just flew by. I enjoyed this one. But my favorite one was one I watched early on, and I thought Sony's Edge was actually very good. Yes, it does have that uncanny effect with the human still, but I feel like there was enough going on here that it didn't just feel like a video game cutscene. I thought it kind of worked because it's this monster fighting arena, so it already had that element to it. And it actually has two very smart twists, where it turns out the one girl that she's making out with is actually someone else's avatar. And then it turns out that the main character's avatar is actually the human and not the monster. So they got me twice in the span of like 2 minutes. You got yourself some cool monster design, some cool action. It's not great, but it's definitely the best of the bunch. So out of 18 short films, 3 I enjoyed. I didn't love any, but 3 I enjoyed. Like, come on, that is just embarrassing. Like, come on. There's just no excuse for that. Put in some more effort. There are some with unique animation styles that allow them to stand out in the midst of video game cutscenes, so I appreciate that, but the video game cutscenes just looked really bad. There's an uncanny valley effect with the human characters. The backgrounds look nice, but the entire time it just feels like I'm waiting to pick up the controller. It just doesn't work in context of a TV show. And I also think that lots of these short films focus too much on action, and that's the wrong approach. A few of my favorite short films would be The Sandman and Armor, which are two great atmospheric horror short films that are just simple and to the point and over before you know it. And I feel like you should rely more on atmosphere for short films. Or if you look at some Pixar ones like For the Birds or Presto, they're hilarious and they're quick and easy. So I think that's the way to approach it, because if you do action, you have to establish too much and just not a single one of the action ones succeeds in any way. I also don't think any of them utilize the short format well. You gotta do storytelling differently in that regard, and just lots of them feel like one random action scene that have no weight behind it, or it feels like the climax to a movie we haven't seen the rest of. So there's also that. And I also think the biggest problem here is that it's just trying way too hard to be R-rated. Like, it's just trying so hard to be dark and edgy, and it just comes across so immature and just wrong, to be quite honest. The amount of nudity in this just becomes excessive at a certain point. That it kind of just becomes a self-parody. Like, look how R-rated we are. Look at these people having sex over and over again. And at a certain point, you're just like, okay, this is just getting ridiculous. You know, even in the comedic Hitler one, they have to throw in an orgy joke. I just think it's really immature. I didn't like this season of television at all. I'll never watch it again. I enjoyed 3. I can appreciate what it's trying to do, but when it's a failure on this level, there's just no justification for that. I was going to give this a 2 out of 10, but thinking about it longer, I just can't even give it that high. Watch Ice Age, Helping Hand, and Sony's Edge. You can skip the rest. I'm giving this season of television a 1 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Love, Death, and Robots Season 1? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.